Alright, so hello one and all, welcome back to another Mushoku Tensei video. This is the first video I've made about it since Season 2 came out, and that's because I haven't seen Season 2. I'll get around to it eventually, but I hear not the best things about it, about anything really. I know there's the whole animation thing, but I've heard it's not good. But that's not the reason why I haven't watched it. Watching anime is hard nowadays. Sitting down for 20 minutes to watch a show, it's difficult. But sitting down for an hour and doing absolutely nothing, that's easy. But I'll make videos about Season 2 eventually. And I do want to get back into doing the skipped content review stuff that I did. I have all of them recorded, but it's just a matter of editing them, and I hate everything about it. But I'll get to it eventually. I have new motivation. So I might get Season 1's finished and done, and then I'll go on to Season 2's, but those will be formatted much differently. But anyway, that's not what you're here for. You're here for the teachers of Mushoku Tensei. A while ago, I mentioned that I wanted to make a video talking about that, listing out the teachers and how their teaching style is, and compare them to the other teachers that we see in the series. Just to kind of compare the teaching styles and kind of what drives them to be that way. And also how it affects the students themselves. And so that's what this video is, because you clicked on it. So anyway, let's get into things, starting with Paul Greyrat. His only student that we've seen so far is Rudius, and his teaching style is kind of instinctual. He shows them, and then the student will try it. He wants you to train the body as much as you can before you know the techniques behind the sword. When teaching techniques, he basically shows you how to do it and expects you to just be able to do it after him. Example is with him trying to teach Rudius to cut the boulder in half. He is described more as an instinctual teacher and doesn't actually know how to explain how he does certain things, and so you basically just have to repeat it over and over again until you finally understand the method behind it, because not even Paul knows how he does some of what he does. Going back to the boulder example, the reason why Paul could do it so easily and why Rudius couldn't isn't necessarily because of a skill gap in their swordsmanship. It's more likely a magical issue. Rudius suspects that Paul is actually using Toki, which is like a mana armor, when cutting the stone. This is something that for certain reasons Rudius doesn't have. He can't conjure this Toki, and it's unlikely that Paul even realizes he's using Toki. Paul is someone who knows how to fight but doesn't know the fundamentals in order to explain it and passes knowledge onto others or even onto himself so he can improve. He's not really the best teacher when you break it down. But next up we have Roxy Magurdia. The students that we've seen so far are Rudius and Pax, and her teaching style is kind of just very personal and understanding. She gets one-to-one with you and kind of gets on your level. She's very patient with Rudius when he doesn't understand something and will help him as long as it takes until he finally understands. She moves one step at a time and waits until her student is ready to move forward. Unlike Paul, she explains everything every step of the way, and before going to the practical side of magic learning, she teaches it from the books first, so Rudius has a fundamental understanding of what he needs to learn. Despite the patient nature of Roxy's teaching, she's not afraid to push her students outside of their comfort zone when she knows it'll help them improve on themselves. An example being when she brought Rudius outside of the house for that first time. Although she thought he was just afraid of the horse, it was really he was just afraid of the outside world. But regardless, without his consent really, she pushed him, which allowed him to grow. This is likely due to how she herself was raised, and coincidentally, they kind of had a similar fear of the world around them. But it was when Roxy pushed herself beyond that to leave her town and explore the world that she was able to grow as a person. However, when it comes to her second known student, Pax, she's a lot less patient with him because of the high standards that Rudius had brought, which does show the ignorant side of Roxy, which we can again see in her personality. There's a clear theme of her teaching, which is that she applies who she is and what she's been through onto her students in her teaching, which thankfully isn't a bad thing for the most part, unlike with Paul. Next up is Rudius Greyrat. The students that we've seen him teach are Sylphie and Eris. His teaching style is mainly just he puts himself in their shoes. An example is when he's teaching Eris how to dance. He tried to relate it in a way that she would understand, which meant to imagine that the dance was swordplay. When it comes to teaching Sylphie, he actually used methods similar to both Roxy and Paul. With Roxy, he took her slow and understanding approach. However, like Paul, he was very instinctual in how he taught Sylphie because she is a bit of an instinctual type as well. This is because of the incantationless spellcasting where, unless you break it down like Rudius does, it comes off as a very instinctual practice. That's why both he and Sylphie are instinctual type of learners and teachers. However, back when Rudius was teaching Eris arithmetics, he decided to think outside the box from the norm of this world and introduce off days, once again because he was catering to how the student needs to learn, and he puts himself in their shoes. A big inspiration for Rudius' teaching methods comes from Yamamoto Isoroku, a Japanese Navy admiral in the early 1900s. He quotes the admiral saying, "Show them, tell them, have them do it, and then praise them. Otherwise, people won't do anything. Speak to them, hear them out, recognize them, and give them responsibility. Otherwise, they will never grow. Watch them work with gratitude and show your faith in them. Otherwise, they will never truly blossom." This really does show where the putting himself in their shoes thing comes from, and this is kind of how I try and teach people when I have to. It makes things personal, and hopefully the person is able to or wants to learn more because of it. Up next is Ghislaine de Doldia. Her students that we've seen her teach are Eris and Rudius. Her teaching style is instinctual but understands the fundamentals. Ghislaine is a bit of a mixture of an instinctual teacher and one that understands the fundamentals. In the past, she operated solely on instincts. She never knew exactly how she did things, but she knew that she could do them. However, because she knew it was holding her back, she eventually learned the basics and theory behind swordplay, which allowed her to grow even stronger than she ever had before, which is a major thing that separates her from Paul. But this is kind of how her teaching style is made. She has a similar method of simple sparring like Paul does, however, unlike him, Ghislaine always sits you down and explains to you what you did wrong or what you did right before continuing. When dealing with the instinctual fighters like Eris and Rudius, this method works especially well with them. It's almost like the opposite of Roxy's style, where she'll keep your head in the books and then let you practice what she's teaching physically afterwards, whereas Ghislaine throws you into the physical aspect before she afterwards teaches you the rights and wrongs of what you did. Their teaching styles are definitely a lot more different than how I make them out to be, but when you break it down, that's kind of what they're like. Slightly different in practice, but it leaves you with a very different outcome. Up next is Edna Leiloon, Eris's etiquette teacher, which, her student that we've seen her teach is Eris. And her teaching style is just do it. Why can't you do it? Essentially. We haven't really seen Edna teach anyone else, but when she taught Eris dance, her method was basically like, okay, no, don't do that. No, do it right. No, not like that. Just do it better. If you think about it, she has a similar teaching style to Ghislaine. However, unlike Ghislaine, she doesn't know how to articulate her ideas and thoughts very well. They both show you what you have to do, make you do it, and criticize you afterwards. It's actually kind of similar to Rudius' method of show them, tell them, and have them do it. However, the difference between all three of their teachings is the last part of the sentence. Show them, tell them, have them do it, and then praise them. Edna does no praise whatsoever. All she says is that you're doing it wrong, and you just have to not do it. Ghislaine plainly tells you that you're doing it wrong, or that you're doing it right. I believe that she does praise you if you do it right, though, but then there's Rudius who will praise you regardless, even just for the fact that you tried. It's not like he's giving out participation trophies or anything like that. It's more so that he's acknowledging you. He's acknowledging your effort and sees that you are trying, even if you aren't able to do exactly what he's trying to teach you. If you haven't noticed so far, a lot of these teaching methods are very similar, just with slight alterations that drastically change the outcomes. Up next is Ruijerd Superdia. His students that we've seen him teach are Eris and Rudius. His teaching style is kind of like the wise old sage. Now, what do I mean by that? It's a lot less of a spectacle than it sounds. All I'm saying is that he has a lot of experience, more than any other teacher that Eris and Rudius could ever hope to get. This means that Ruijerd knows the history of what he's teaching. He's put it into practice for a long time. He's taught many people and has dealt with a variety of different students. He's been in many different situations to pass the knowledge off to others, and based on who he is and what he's experienced, he's grown compassion for people, meaning he cares about his students. He's had many years to master what he's teaching, and he simply has the strength in order to do it. He is almost like the perfect teacher. There's nothing else more than you'd want in a teacher. Yeah, unlike Roxy, he doesn't shove your face in a book, but aside from that, he has the common understanding ways that he does. Much like Paul and Ghislaine, he throws you into the action and pushes your limits. And like Rudius, he does care for his students and seems to try and train them according to their style. The one arguable drawback to Ruijerd's teaching is, unlike Ghislaine, he doesn't sit you down and explain the rights and wrongs of what you did. He instead simply says, "Do you understand?" This is because of most of the time, it's kind of hard to say what you did wrong. Each encounter, each situation is very different. Just because in training you didn't spin your heel and catch your foot in this exact way doesn't mean you need to do that every single time in real combat. If you were to do the exact move that you were told to do every time, that's probably not going to go well for you. So with this, instead of planting the idea of, you must do this in this situation, Ruger doesn't create a concrete solution, and it allows you to come to your own conclusion on how to solve the problem. This allows you to build your own fundamentals and thought process rather than specific moves and techniques that you picture in your mind. It's very similar to karate if any of you have taken it. You have your basic moves that you learn, the fundamentals, but you also have the kata. These are orchestrated moves, almost like a dance, that you perform in sequence. The idea I see these are for, although I could be wrong, is it's kind of like a whole wash on, wash off kind of idea. You learn the movements and apply them into a practical setting later. I get it, but I don't like it. Ruger tries to stay away from this, it seems, and allows the students a more freeing mindset so they don't get locked in any one way. We actually know this is how he operates because with every step or move his opponent makes, Ruger thinks of a dozen other counters and steps to combat them in any given situation. He does not limit his fighting. He allows for a very open-minded and free method, which allows for adaptability. That is his style. And finally, we have Eris Greyrat. Yes, she's kind of a teacher. She did teach Minitona for a little bit, and her teaching style is kind of just to go at it. We don't really see, how much Eris teaches Minitona, and we don't exactly know how she does, but it seemed as though she had adapted a style similar to both Ghislaine and Ruger. Basically, she would just spar with you until you understand what you're doing. It's a bit barbaric, but it clearly works for Minitona. Will this work for many other people? Probably not. But it does give us an insight into Eris's mind, and it's something that we'll be able to see a bit more in Season 2 when we cut back to Eris every now and then. It's not like she'll be teaching anybody else, but she does teach herself to get stronger. And just going at it is basically her method that she uses, and I'm not going to say it wasn't effective, but it definitely wasn't healthy. But those are all the teachers so far in Mushoku Tensei. In Season 2, we're definitely going to see many more teachers, mainly because we're going to a school, but funny enough, there's not many teachers that we get to know at that school. So I'll definitely have to make a part 2 at some point once we actually get to meet all of these different teachers, and probably a part 3 at some point as well, because there's just a lot of teachers in Mushoku Tensei. Also, yes, I'm holding my mic. I haven't mentioned it at all, but look at this. I can do so much stuff with this mic. It's insane. And the audio balancing is going to be terrible. But I hope you enjoyed this video. It's a little bit of a different one. I definitely want to talk more about the characters in the world of Mushoku Tensei rather than just what the anime skipped and being a little bit of a hater in that regard, because I know I am. I know I'm a hater. I know, but I want to talk more. I'm in the middle of trying to figure out exactly what to do for this channel, because it's a little bit difficult. Because I can't talk about current Mushoku Tensei events because there are no current Mushoku Tensei events. It's on a break for an indefinite amount of time until we get the sequel, and then it's not even Mushoku Tensei at that point, but it still kind of is. And I can't make any theories about Mushoku Tensei because it's already been made. So I don't know. It's very difficult. I'm gonna work on what videos I can actually make, because it seems like a big part of the audience that I have are light novel readers, it seems. Surprisingly, even though I make videos cater to anime fans, I think the majority of my viewers are light novel fans. So I'm thinking I have to cater more so to a little bit of both, but mainly them, it seems. I don't know. What kind of Mushoku Tensei videos do you guys want to see? Because I need ideas. I do have a long list of video ideas, but I definitely want more. I will always take more ideas. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, give it a like and subscribe for more Mushoku Tensei content, and I will see you in the next video, maybe with a video talking about Season 2, or I'll get back to those recap episodes of Season 1. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Goodbye.